Good evening, everyone. It's 9 o'clock p.m. here, and my co-host Alex is a little under the weather. He's got the vid. It seems that a lot of people have the vid. It's like spreading like crazy. Anyways, yeah, it's morning there in the UK. It's what 2 a.m. I believe. Hey, Melissa, how are you? 2 a.m. and sitting in for Alex for the first hour, anyways, is our good friend, the Secret Vault, Matt Williams. When he comes in, we'll bring him in. So how is everybody this evening or this morning, early morning? Hopefully we're all doing well. Cheers. Um, yeah, it's been crazy. It's like I don't know what it's like warm. And when most people think of Canada, they're going, where's the snow? Where are the igloos? We don't have enough snow. We have no snow. We haven't had any snow, hardly any. It's green. The grass is green. It's unusual. Global warming, climate change, all of the above. Or is it a natural progression of the earth? Who knows? What do you guys think? I don't know. I'm not really going to get into it. But let's see. I want to give shouts out to Melissa Tracy. Top of the morning. And I think we have Matt. Hello,
Just in,
sir.
just in time. How
Just in time. How
are you
are you?
doing? Not too
Good.
bad. I just had a bath for you and a shave.
Oh, so
So
well, at least you're cleanly shaven. Unfortunately, I'm a little rough today. I don't know. Kind of lazy. It's been a lazy day, really, except for this morning. But how are you? Good? Everything good?
pretty good, yeah, pretty good. Yeah, I had a system crash. My computer went down, so I had to reinstall it. It was like, ugh, and it was kept on crashing. Yeah, so I'm kind of getting past it now, but hence why I don't have a background on because I haven't had time. So to get that up and running.
Well, that's cool. It's good to hear that that's cleared up. And yeah, it's the worst when you have a system crash.
Yeah. Oh, there we are. Look, I can have a
A bla-
crap
yeah,
attempt at it, but yeah, it doesn't work very well.
I know.
Yeah.
My green screen is garbage. I have to get a new one. It's just I don't know.
No, I'll just leave it like
I
that.
can't even be bothered. But as
Yeah.
I was telling everyone, Alex has got the vid. My co-host, he's got the vid. He's Everybody seems to be getting the vid. What's going on?
I don't know.
It's like insane.
Yeah.
Another wave.
Wonder whether we're going to just sort of beat it in the end. Just become immune to it. Completely immune because it'll have tried every trick in the book, and you know, I can't. I can't. We're going to be like this the rest of our lives. Just like, well, we have cold, we have flu, and we have COVID.
I know.
Mm.
It's when people are like, "Well, it's going to disappear," but it doesn't seem to want to do that. I mean, all like year round.
Yeah. Sorry, just
So,
getting some damp out of my ears and my headphones. Then just rattle it out there.
so 2 a.m. your time, pretty much. And I want to thank you for coming on. I know it's
Yes, you
early
complete
there, and
you complete bastard, you. Oh, look, I've just realized my microphone is showing.
oh
Sorry,
yeah,
didn't realize that.
you got a
There we
little.
go. I don't know which one is actually. Is it this one? I'm not sure which mic I'm coming out of. It's all so new.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's coming out of the webcam. Oh shit. Dare I change this now?
Uh oh. Uh oh.
Probably not. No. Um. Yeah, maybe I can do that. How's that? Can you still hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Oh, that's okay then. Yeah.
You're coming through good.
That's the clever mic.
The
So
clever Mike.
yeah, I
The
think
clever Mike. Yeah, I know. I was doing a couple of shows there, and I forgot to put my mic on. It was the webcam, and it's like, oh man, I forgot to check the settings. It sucks. But anyway, so you know, I can't help but think, I keep going back to that that explore you did of that old farmhouse, and that the farmer man coughing in what was his name? What was the guy's name again that you were with?
I'm just trying to think now. The farmer who was I don't know what their names were. Sorry. No, I'm just thinking back now. It was Claire,
Yeah.
um, Dave.
Hmm.
Yeah, he calls himself LOL.
Yeah.
And then the not urban legend. It was the legendary explorer or something like that. I don't know. Bloody useless. And yeah.
But yeah, how convenient him coughing in his face and
Yeah, that's
COVID,
nice, isn't
COVID.
it?
Wow.
I mean,
So
he's trying to tell us that we're being bad people for coming and have a look at a house, and his way of dealing with it is by going, "I'm going to act like a child and cough in your face." Ha ha.
what
It's
what
like,
what are they? The guardians of this farmhouse or something? I mean, it's not like,
yeah.
yeah, you guys weren't trashing the place. You're just, going in and documenting it and just looking around, and that was it. It's not like you're like vandalizing or trashing the place.
I mean, they did say that some people had come in and stole some stuff, and the people I was with had been there once before, or
Mhm.
I don't know. I think they may have been there once before, and they said stuff has definitely been stolen from here. So I can understand why people get upset, but
Mhm.
then, you got copper thieves, and urban explorers, and
Yep.
unfortunately, those other two do so much damage
Mhm.
that we get kind of lumbered with that. Then, and yeah.
And I mean, there's really nothing you can do to reassure them that you weren't doing anything because they think, yeah, you're lumped in with the other two.
Yeah, I mean, they did say, "Well, who are you with? Have you got a card?" And I could have actually pulled a card out, but I was like, "Oh, forget it. It'll be the police around my door then. It'll be like, yo, you gave a card to this guy. Oh, you're gonna come and have a word with you."
And,
Oh,
like, judging by the amount of stuff in that farmhouse too, how can anyone really tell if something's been stolen? So much
who
stuff in
would who
there.
would want to steal any of
That
that
that that
shit?
too. It's
Like,
so dated.
50 years of old tellies, just like they don't take them down the skip. They just put them in a room and just start stacking them. Yeah,
So how long was that place abandoned for, do you know?
I think at least 2 years.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, they were making out. Well, hey, my voice goes lower when I'm doing the smoke. Um, they were making out that it was something like a couple of weeks or a couple of months or something like that. But I think it was more like about 2 years. And how anyone lives in that level of filth. I mean, I'm messy, but that's like next level filth.
That's
You know,
hoarding.
I mean,
Hoarding's
they
crazy.
let the roof start leaking in. They let the walls start crumbling, so you can see through the walls. And these are all things that you could probably just put a bit of cement up there or something, or just to stop it. No, no,
Mhm.
just leave it. Just chuck everything, hoard it. It's quite crazy what you see some people living like, and then they've got a massive house. They've got a massive house out in the countryside, and they live like pigs.
Yeah, I mean, it must be pretty cool though to find those little gems, these abandoned farmhouses and old historical places that have been sitting there like they're like a time capsule.
Yeah, it is quite nice, and I like to see them. But I mean, what strikes me as sad is like, these people have obviously got money or have, been handed this great opportunity, and all they do is they just squander it. And that it seems to me like farmer type mentality,
Yeah.
because they just have all this land, and then they decide to go and screw with it, and do silly things, like chemicals, mismanaging the land, and then telling everybody else they can't come on it. But it's like, but yeah, but look what you're doing with it.
Mm,
That's what I always find fascinating. They had a pigsty or an animal shed, where you'd have different stalls for different animals,
yeah.
and the animals that must have been in there, the very last animals that were in there, had literally been shitting. So, and that was probably 30 years ago. And they never bothered to just chuck it to one side, and just keep the floor clear.
So
The,
they
the,
just
the shit was
collected.
still there in clumps. And it's
Oof,
probably been there for 30 years.
30 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
That
Um,
that the mentality is something special. Yeah.
yeah, just like here, I mean, you do find some quite a bit of abandoned farmhouses, but not nearly as probably not as old as some of the ones that you've probably found over there. But still, like it's pretty neat to walk into one of these places and just walk through and go, wow, you know, what what were these guys doing? What was this family doing? Like I remember an old farmhouse that I found years ago, and I did a little bit back, like a background check on it, and it had been bought out by one of the larger railroad companies, and they were leasing it for a while, and they I guess up until about 2005 or 6, they stopped because uh, the woman who had been living in the house committed suicide in one of the barns. And when I, upon looking further into this, it wasn't actually the only suicide there. There was actually years ago in the 70s, the family that lived there, the wife climbed up onto the roof and the scaffolding up to the TV antenna and actually hung herself from it. And I'm like, these are the kind of stories that you find with these houses. I mean, what's the craziest place that you've been into? You think?
I think the asylums,
Yeah.
where you probably got a lot of mental anguish going on from the people that were there that didn't know exactly what was going on, or being dosed up against their will with a lot of drugs, and probably abused in various ways. Let your
Mm,
imagination run wild with that
yeah.
one. Um, and a lot of these places have just been shut down now because they're kind of an embarrassment to the government. So they
Hmm.
just want to kind of just get rid of them, because anything that looks like an old Victorian building, stonework and the like, it just reeks of kind of institutionalized abuse. So I think it's kind of sad that they're not still used as hospitals and
Mm,
used in that capacity, but they certainly go downhill quickly, and they've got a lot of character and a lot of feeling in them. Like
mm, yeah.
you can almost feel the kind of sinister presence there of maybe spirits, or maybe just the knowledge of what went on. So
Yeah, I guess the obviously the background would scream something very nefarious, very, very depressing and dark, and like you said, sinister.
mm,
And even some schools, like some old schools that you go into, have been sitting there for years, and you walk through the hallways, and you're like, This is just a gloomy place," you
yeah, I
know?
was I was in one today, a care home in Devizes, and it was just it's on a main road, and you could drive past it and you'd never give it a second glance and realize, oh, that's actually abandoned. And somebody told me about it. I was like, how can that be there right in plain sight? I go past that maybe 10, 15 times a week.
Yeah.
I've never looked and realized, oh, actually, yes, that's boarded up. And what was more amazing as well is the doors were open, so you could get in really easily. Homeless people had been living in there. The copper thieves had been in there. The whole place was trashed.
Yeah.
Um, but like, there's another building that's just kind of could have been sold, could have been done up, but is now vandalized. Hardly recognizable. And yeah, you think to yourself, they don't look that clever. A lot of these care homes, they're often kind of cheaply put together,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
are they just kind of like the bottom end of the care home market for people that can't afford posh places? They end
Mm.
up in sort of dumpy little dives, you know, which is kind of sad.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. It is sad. again, like you said, why they fall by the wayside. So many of them have so much character, and you figure, the way they're built too, they're sturdy
Mm,
in comparison to buildings nowadays. But yeah, if they're just gonna sit, obviously they're gonna fall to pieces. But still, like, why can't somebody just come in, spend not a little bit of money, but a lot of money, and revitalize the place and use it,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
that's right. Say hello to people who've been saying hello in the chat, by the way.
Yes, yes,
I
Della, how
can't.
are you? It's good to see Della, Kevin, and Barry, and Mark. Melissa's there, and
Melissa, yeah,
Tracy.
and Tracy,
Tracy's
yeah,
there.
and all the rest.
Yeah.
Thanks for popping over. Some of the people who come over from on my channel. So,
Yeah, and I threw the link. Obviously, nobody needs the link because they know where to find you.
well,
I'm
yeah,
just kidding.
yeah.
Just in case you can't find Matt, the
Oh,
links.
Laura, hello, and Sab.
Sab, how you doing,
Oh, and
Sab? Sue,
Dinkum Aussie.
Dinkum's there. Tim, Laura.
That's a guy you should get on your show if you fancy a laugh.
Yeah,
Dinkum.
well, I think Dinkum was on once. He was on once before. He's been in a few times.
Yeah,
Really, really, really cool guy. Yeah.
yeah.
Um,
Of course,
and
doesn't have a webcam though. That's the trouble. So
yeah. Yeah, he's always known as the guy without the webcam, right?
he's got a very mysterious life. Let's put it like that. So yeah.
So where do you find a lot of your like how do you find a lot of your um locations? Like without obviously giving too much away, but I mean basic.
A lot of the time these days, people tell me that there's something in a location, and that for some reason they can't go, or they just want to see me go there or something, and I'll pick up on that. But there have been occasions where I just get my nose down into Google and starts looking up, military bases, hospitals, things like that, and look for, type in the word abandoned, urbex, this, that. I sometimes look through old pages from stuff a long time ago, where people haven't been back for a long time, but they took photos maybe 10 years ago, and I'm like, oh, I wonder if that place is still there.
Mhm.
And people have kind of forgotten about it because that was then,
Yeah.
and what I find interesting is if you can find these places and they're still there, and it's like, my God, it's lasted this long, still abandoned, still wrecked. Nobody's made any effort to take care of it. And yeah, so it's often through Google and word of mouth, sometimes just driving down the road and you spot something as well. But
Yeah, I find that's the best one. You stumble
mm,
upon a little gem. It's like in the middle of nowhere, and then all of a sudden, ooh, is that abandoned?
yeah,
Yeah. Um, yeah. So
we did one the other day in a place called Tiverton, and
okay.
we did a police station, and we did some sort of other building where we had to climb in through the roof and drop down
Hmm.
into the building, and we didn't realize that up the road was just a colossal care home abandoned.
Mm.
And so you can be hitting places in a small town and still not realize that there's just stuff all over the place on the fringes of the place.
Yeah. But I mean, like, in terms of getting into some of these places, they must be really, really difficult.
That one in Tiverton was a prime example. We walked up the road, the
Mhm.
gates to this big place were open,
Oh,
which
wow.
made me think, hang on, there's probably a security guard in there. So we sneaked up, and then Jordan said, "Oh, the main door's open." And I was like, "Oh, well, somebody must have ripped the boards off and
Mhm.
gone into the main door." And of course, I'm always, when that happens, I'm always thinking in the back of my head, oh, everybody's going to say they broke in, because if you've just got one way in, people will say, well, you did that. It's a natural sort of thing. I get it a lot. People,
Mm.
leave sarcastic comments like you broke in there. So I was relieved to actually see that umpteen windows and doors and all sorts of stuff were open, and you could have walked in about 15 ways into this building. And that's a relief, because then I can say, well, no, the doors are always open, and I make a bit of a joke of that, but the doors are always open. Maybe you have to use a ladder
Yeah.
sometimes, but something's open, you know.
And yeah, and you're saying you always have to be on the lookout for authorities, security, and I mean they're probably not your worst enemy. Probably a lot of other shady people are probably hanging around doing this kind of stuff too that not a lot of people like.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen people who probably are thieving copper and causing damage and things like that, and generally, I've never had any problems with those. The only people you have problems with is the security and the police.
Oh, okay.
But if you see homeless people or people who are probably up to no good, it's usually just like, all right, yeah, okay, and we just get on with what we're doing. You get on with what you're doing. Never had any aggro. So I dare say one day we'll probably run into some. Well, actually, I did again security though. Security at one
Hmm.
location, and they got a bit argy bargy, pushing and shoving, and yeah. Generally, the people who visit these places, whether they're homeless or whether they're copper thieves, they're okay to talk to.
Hmm.
They're not worried about why you're there, so that's okay. I think that's the least of your worries, to be honest. I think it literally is your mad farmers and your mad owners and you know you don't know what they could pull. They might try to attack you, I think, more than homeless people, to be honest.
Have you had that issue? Somebody try to attack you or
Yeah, security guards were sort of pushing me into a bush, tripping me backwards and stuff like that, tripping me, trying to get me on the ground and
oh,
doing so, yeah, at one place. And luckily, the police turned up,
mhm,
and I just said, "Well, I've got them on film pushing me over and sort of like all this sort of business." Now, I mean, somebody trying to trip you up, I mean, tripping you up and pushing you over is lucky I didn't come back with something in my fist and just clock him, in the face.
yeah.
Really, because when you start doing that to somebody, you don't know whether you're going to get a reaction. And that so the security guard was pushing his luck there, because if I hadn't have been as calm as I am, I
Mhm.
could have turned around and just laid into him, But that's the thing. I've heard of lots of urbexers out there who have had situations with security guards, and it is usually security guards. Police won't do that, but the security guards get pushy and shovey and get like in your face,
Yeah.
and fights have erupted. And it has been like fist fights. But it's security every time. Amateur, stuck up, wannabe police, but didn't have the IQ,
Mhm, yeah.
and they just get all kind of like, I can throw my weight around, and it's like, and then they get slapped. I did see some. I was on an explore once,
Yeah.
and again, it's not. I don't do that. I mean, I'll rather talk to people and just leave. It's. But I was with. I'm not going to mention any names. I was with somebody, a really big bloke, and this security guard kept coming up behind him, and he was sort of like grabbing him, and he said, "Let go of me," and like that, and he pushed his hand off, and then he came back up again and did it, and he said, "If you do that again, you're going to get it." Right, and the guy came up to him again, and he lamped him out, and he went back, and he was like on the floor, you know. And he did give him a hell of a clout. The guy was reeling, like So, but he did warn him. Yeah, he did warn him.
I don't know if you saw that it posted, but Della Ferrant, who was David Ferrant's wife, said thank you for the Gareth Davies collection that I guess that you made available or something. I guess some of the old mindset or something.
Yeah, I think I put some videos, which were his brother had some cine films. I
Oh
think.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it was
Really?
probably that.
Okay.
Yeah.
She says thank you, by the way.
Oh, that's no problem.
Yeah.
Wish we had some more, really.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's and again, talking about Gareth, I mean, there's that connection as well because I mean, you you were on his show a few times, and I know he was a big fan of the Secret Vault. I mean, I can't remember what he called you. What Secret Matt? What was it? Secret Vault Matt? What did he call you again? Secret. He had a like a really snazzy name for you. I can't remember though.
I can't quite
I have to go
remember.
back and
Yeah,
watch them again.
yeah,
So, and that's how you guys obviously sort of connected. What he was watching the Secret Vault sort of thing, or people were
yeah.
pointing.
I'm not very. Yeah, I'm not. I'm shit with remembering details like where I was, with whom I was,
Mm.
and little things like that. And people often remind me. They say, "Oh, there's actually you were with this person, and we did this. Remember?" And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, that makes sense." But I'm pretty bad at like people remembering. I can remember places and big things. I remember big events like shitty security guards. I remember crazy situations, but like if you ask me, you know, what we did a week ago, I'd probably go like, oh shit, yeah, what was I doing a week ago? You know, the best way I could tell would be to look through my video folder of what I was filming, and then I can piece together between then and then I probably did this. But I'm useless with times and dates. Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, okay. So Urban
Mm.
X, you're a bigger Urban Xer, and you're obviously huge in the paranormal slash UFO sort of. I mean, when did you start Urban X? Was it always like a thing that was going on forever, like
This
hand
smoke
in
is like
hand?
a laugh a minute, isn't it? It's like coming out my glass. Um, so when did I start doing it? You're
Yeah,
saying? So, yeah.
yeah.
When I was a kid, really. I mean, I used to like wandering off and going to sort of places and climbing over fences, going. There were some old buildings. There's like a very old school that was in a very old building, and I remember sort of getting in through a window. There's some loose boards, and got in there, and that was absolutely fascinating because it was like a blast from the past. It was like old school tables and with gas Bunsen burners, and yeah, the old chalkboards, but looking very much like a school I remembered when I was young. But again, it just got like locked up, and they threw away the key, sort of thing, and just left it up there. It had been left for like 20, 30 years, just untouched. And in the end, they just went up there. And even though it was a great old building, really like thick stone building,
Mhm.
massive stone blocks, and they just leveled it, just went up and demolished it. So it's just weird, how they've got no appreciation for these old buildings.
Yeah, it's
They'd
really
rather
too bad.
they'd rather just build something out of prefab, corrugated steel, or something like that, and just pad it with fiberglass to keep the heat in, and just put plasterboard walls on the inside. It's the way of things, isn't it?
Yeah, there's nothing to them. It's sad. There's no yeah, I mean there's no feel to them, nothing to them. They're just completely blah, completely. And I mean, is that like a, I guess, an indication of how we are as a human species now, blah.
Yeah, we're forgetting how to build good,
Yeah,
strong architectural wonders, and we're just going for the cheap prefab.
exactly.
Knock it up, put it up in a couple of days, and comes down just as quick.
Cookie
But
cutter.
yeah.
Cookie cutter. Yeah, it's sad. Um
I've
did you
upgraded from this vape, by the way. I used to be smoking this vape, but
yeah,
this has no flavor at
no
all
flavor.
and doesn't produce much smoke. It's just
Did you want to open this up a little bit, or did you
yeah.
want to keep going?
No, that's okay. But this one, this
Yeah.
bad boy.
Wow. The
Oh,
smoke
oh,
coming out of that
oh.
one, huh?
Yeah, this was a present, by the way, from Beeface and Luke. I think
Oh,
Luke
wow.
bought it, but they've all got these, and they
Yeah.
said, yeah. Now, funny thing is, I can taste this. This vape is proper. You can taste it and you can smell it. So whatever you've got, like I've actually got coffee and chocolate cake, because I like the
Wow.
I like the so, and I can taste the coffee, and
Coffee and
it
chocolate
smells like
cake.
coffee. Yeah, it's great.
Wow.
So yeah. But anyway, so if anybody's wondering, it's a very powerful geek vape. But
Yeah,
and I'm
it's pretty neat.
fascinated
I
by
like
it.
the interface on it. Looks pretty interesting.
Yeah, you can You can switch modes. Hang on, it's just you can switch modes and you can program it to do certain settings. And
And what does it tell you? How much liquid you have left?
you know, you just visually look at
Oh,
that.
okay, visually.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. But
goes to show you how much I vape.
yeah, you can use it as a smoke machine as well. I'm thinking when I go in buildings now, because you can just blow into it as well. You can go
That's
and you
pretty
can
cool.
produce a load of smoke, and then you can have atmospheric sort of lighting effects when you're in buildings. Yeah, it's crazy the amount of fluid it uses, though. I mean, I'm filling this thing up like every hour. Yeah. Anyway, I digress, but yeah, just so that
So,
people know what's going on.
hey Jeremy, how are you? Alex has COVID. He's got the vid.
He's got VD.
He's yeah, VD. He's got the vid. He's not feeling too well, so he's not with us this evening. Next week we start off officially. So, but so UFO wise, I mean, what was your interest with UFO? I mean, why did you get into that?
The UFOs was I had books on the paranormal when I was a kid. I used to get this magazine that came out monthly, so it was affordable,
Hmm.
and you put it together into books basically. So you built a compendium of these in I think it's probably about 12 sets of these books. It was called The Unexplained,
Oh yeah, okay.
and I just thought it was fascinating. It was offbeat because they were very small stories, but it was switching. Like you'd have the magazine, it would be like spontaneous human combustions, psychokinesis, and it would be all sorts of different subjects. Like crop circles were in there, but I never really noticed those when I when that was there. It was surprising considering I should have realized. But it was one of those things like, oh, patterns in the crop, and I just like skipped past that. When I was there. Mostly interested in like aliens and ghosts and things like that, psychic powers. Those are the things that fascinated me. Anyway, so I'd never seen anything or had anything happen to me. But then I was about 19 years of age and I was
Hmm.
driving from my hometown up over a big mountain road. Well, big by British standards, absolutely nothing compared to American standards. But and I was going to do some video editing, and then I saw a triangular light on the side of the mountain, and it was shimmering. And as I was driving, I was looking at the road and looking at this thing and trying to sort of, what is that? And I was thinking it could have been a fire, like a forest fire, because the kids are prone to sort of set the forestry on fire, and then it goes quite a long way. And I couldn't make out quite what it was, and it was weird because it seemed like it was very close to me, and it was also far away. It was kind of like I couldn't gauge the distance,
Hmm.
but then my brain kind of said, well, actually, it's in front of that mountain, but it's behind a set of trees. So I placed it like that, but it was almost like when I was looking at it, it was sort of doing this sort of business, which was really bizarre. And
That is.
anyway, yeah. And then a set of trees passed by, so I lost sight of it. And I thought, hang on a minute, if I keep driving down, I may not get sight of that because that's on the top of the mountain. And if I keep driving down, I may not have a vantage to look up to where it is. And I just thought, that's kind of weird. So I stopped the car, put it in reverse back up, and it had gone. There's nothing there. So it couldn't have been a forest fire because that would not have dissipated in that time. And it didn't really look quite like a forest fire. It was orange, but heat haze. It was like a shimmering heat haze.
Oh wow.
And then I didn't remember it at all for 5 days that I'd had that weird sighting, which
Wow.
which
Okay.
was quite interesting. I mean,
Yeah.
because I was doing something and it was like somebody I describe it as like somebody chucked a bucket of water in my face, and I had this sudden realization that 5 days earlier I'd seen something strange, and then I couldn't work out why I was only thinking about it now, which was weird. Why am I only thinking about this right now? This doesn't make sense. You wouldn't see something like that and then just forget about it, because I really couldn't rationalize it. But on the night, I just carried on. And then when I drove home that night, didn't even look back in the direction where it was to see if it was there. And then 5 days later, I'm like, shit, what was that? And then I sort of drove up the mountain to have a look and stopped, walked up that hill, and I found out that there was a mound of stones, which are known as a cairn mound, which is a burial mound. And
Oh,
people do
wow.
say that, yeah, they say that they often place stone circles, burial mounds, and this sort of stuff on energy lines and special places. So there was one right where that
Interesting.
would have been, which I didn't know prior to actually
And
going up.
what do these what do these mounds look like? I mean, they're just like stones.
Just a load of stones
Load of
piled
stone.
up on top of each other, so it makes a big stone mound, and it's quite
Interesting.
permanent. Then it lasts obviously maybe thousands of years. It might be there. So
Interesting.
mm,
So I found an old mound in the middle of this old woodlot, and it kind of has that sort of, you know, what you're saying. But is it something like that? I don't know. That's interesting. I'll have to investigate. That is pretty neat. I did not know that. That is really neat to know.
yeah. So I mean, there's been a lot of UFO sightings in Wiltshire.
Hmm.
Near special sacred sites. And special areas, which are go back tens of thousands of years. Some of these places, there's like the earliest settlements in the United Kingdom apparently are just up the road from where we make the crop circles, and we have made crop circles in the land where that was one of the earliest settlements in the United Kingdom.
Hmm.
So in Wiltshire, and you can see why people would want to live in Wiltshire, because it's got these nice rolling hills. They're not sort of like jagged and you can't get up them. It's kind of everything is traversable because it's nice rolling, sensible hills.
Yeah.
And I think that lends itself to kind of people wanting to maybe farm and also to travel. Whereas there are some quite flat and boring places in the UK, which, aren't that exciting. But these hills, I mean, you can actually see from hill to hill as well. So it may have been an ancient form of communication, to be able to go on top of a hill
Hmm.
with a fire,
Yeah.
and then you could see where everybody else was. It was a way that you could send messages through light. So I think that's why people, used to live up on the hills and used to have their battlements and their sort of sentinel points, basically.
Well, that's neat. What are your thoughts about ley lines? I mean, do you think
I
they're a
like.
real thing?
I mean, I've actually been taught how to dowse by somebody who was a master dowser,
Okay.
and prior to being taught how to do it, I don't think I had any sort of skill at it. And I was actually told that if you are given the power by a master dowser, they basically can say to you, right, now, and put a hand on you, and they say, now you have it, you've got it, that's it. And then you start dowsing properly. And it's something that's passed on literally by touch,
Hmm.
you know. And
Yeah.
a dowser can sort of say to you, try and douse now, and you don't find anything, and it's like, now try and douse, and it's like, oh, there it is, that's it. So it's like a sort of, it's almost something that's passed on by touch. That's what was relayed to me. And dowsers are big into their ley lines. This is where a lot
Yeah.
of this stuff comes from. um, Having made crop circles, I have a little insight into this kind of myself, because
Hmm.
in the middle of the night we would know a field had, but fields in Wiltshire are huge. We'd know a set of fields had crop in that was suitable,
Yeah.
but we didn't have any idea where to do it, to do the circle. So what we would do is we would just park up, walk until we felt like we were probably somewhere in the middle of the field or thereabouts, and then we would start walking up the field. But it's very deceptive at night. You don't really know exactly where you are. And then we would put a crop circle down, and then we would go away and see how people would react. But what was fascinating is that when we saw the aerial photos, people would say, well, it's in exactly the same position as one that appeared like 3 years ago, like bang on it. And it's funny that you could be walking through a field, and then you think or feel, here, this is the spot.
Hmm.
And then time after time in remote locations, people would go to the same spot and boom, put a circle there. And I would swear blind that these people are not using GPS on their phone to walk into a field and go, oh, we'll
Yeah.
stick this here. That the main objective is the crop has to look okay. Where you're walking, it doesn't look patchy, but
Mhm.
you literally walk out until you think that feels all right. We'll just do it here. And then you find out time after time that these are getting put onto the same spots.
Wow.
And that seems to be an internal mechanism which you don't even realize you're using. I think we've all got it,
Yeah. But
but we don't use it.
like a lot of things though, like I mean, even psychic ability, if you will.
Mm,
People retain it. They've had it when they're young and retain it, or sort of hash it and bring it back to life. Where I think we all probably have some sort of an ability, but we just don't know how to patch into it like some other people do.
you know,
But yeah, that's cool. I really
I
like.
can breathe fire. It's my special superpower.
uh, with the crop circles, you're saying, well, we were making crop circles, but I mean, what drew you to crop circles?
Okay, so my potted history is then sort of, early books and then had an experience
Mhm.
that changed me from being skeptical, because even though I used to read those unexplained compendium volumes, I still didn't know what to make of it. I kind of just, you know, ummed and ahed about it. And the other thing is as well, I mean, when you're reading stuff about the paranormal and ghosts,
Mm,
it almost implies that if you're reading that stuff and you take it seriously, then you must believe in some sort of like afterlife and religions and things like this. And when I was not into this stuff, I was very much, you know, very much anti-religion and
mhm,
anti-spiritual belief. And I thought that even though I used to read these books for sort of titillation value,
mhm,
of like,
yeah.
ooh, that's interesting, I wonder, you know, didn't really believe it. I thought that probably a lot of people were making stuff up and weren't telling the truth. And it took me to have an experience which I couldn't explain. And it flipped me. It flipped me into being the way I saw it then was, if I've had this experience,
Mhm,
then maybe other people have had their experiences.
mhm,
Maybe I
yeah,
should take them more seriously. So it gave me an appreciation for other people's stories and their tales, and then it accelerated me into the subject of wanting to know more. So I wanted to learn about UFOs, the paranormal. So the only way to do it is to get hands-on, go
yeah,
out and actually speak to people and investigate, go to places, try and experience something. So I became a big sky watcher looking for UFOs, and Wiltshire was the destination for that. We
yeah.
were told we were told. And then when we got there, I was looking for I came there for UFOs. Um, well, sorry, actually, tell a lie. At a UFO conference in Cardiff, Colin Andrews got up on stage and started talking about crop circles. And I'd never heard about them, even though I used to read these books. I used to read these books, and it was just something I must have skipped across, like, not interested in that, And then I was like, hang on a minute, those big patterns are just appearing in fields at night. And I kind of put a connection. Maybe it's UFOs, maybe it is aliens doing this then, or maybe we should check it out. So we went down there to Skywatch and look at the fields. But whilst we were down there, we were also speaking to people about what do you think's making these crop circles. And it's very much 50-50 whether or not people believed it was aliens or people believed it was humans. And we were taught to dismiss the human made argument by the
Mhm.
people that we hung around with, because they were very um, snooty about it,
Oh
that it
yeah.
couldn't be humans. So in the end, we actually ended up chatting to people who said they'd made them. And we found it a little bit sort of, okay. But the only way that we thought we would know for sure was to go and make some. So we made some. And then weird things started happening. And
Oh
people were also saying that they were being healed and having weird experiences in the circles that we had made. So
wow.
then it made
So
me
that's
think,
the weird things that were happening. People.
yeah.
Wow, that's interesting.
So once that started happening, it was like the ball had started rolling. The ball didn't stop. We wanted to see how weird it could get, how much interaction we could get with whatever might be out there that's causing these weird things for other people.
Excuse me. Holy.
Yes, okay. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Or
So
as you say, Gesundheit.
Gesundheit. Yeah.
Yeah. Or is it
So
German?
that's pretty interesting. People like weird things are starting to happen. Like people are feeling healed or they were being healed and stuff. What else? Like what other weird stuff?
Seeing balls of light in and around the crop circles, UFOs above the crop circles that we'd made.
So
Have
so
precognition,
what
thinking that the design was going to appear, and then it appears, and we went out and did the design that somebody thought was going to appear. So, it all seemed like we were kind of taking part in some sort of orchestrated, puppetry from the paranormal world. Something or, something or someone was manipulating us
and that's
psychically.
what I was going to ask you.
Yeah.
Why do you think?
Mm.
Why do you think that was happening? That's
Well, I
you're
think we were being made to do it. I think overall, if I sum it all up in short, is we were being sent out there to do things on behalf of something else.
well.
And the something else puts the magic and the UFOs and the weird and the telepathy and all that. That's the other thing.
Hmm.
But they don't go out in fields making them. They get people to do that. But it doesn't mean that anything is less real because of it, because without the people, then there wouldn't be that big thing for people to go and have a look at. And that weirds people out because they go, well, you can't make that at night. It's impossible, and it's like, it's too weird. And we know you can't do it because of the UFO and because of the, and there's they go down the list, da 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 da, so that you can't be involved because all of these things. And we're like, well, we are, but
Hmm.
you know, it's
So
it's a weird it's a weird one. Yeah.
so what's the percentage of what are we looking at in terms of man-made crop circles and mysteriously made crop circles?
Well, are there any really mysterious made crop circles?
Yeah, good question. Is there?
Have there ever been?
Yeah.
I mean, I would say the highest percentage is people, and
Okay.
maybe a few random events might have happened where you've got like it's like a simple circle or a
Hmm.
splat or something like that. But I can't imagine that ball lightning is going to
Hmm.
produce intricate patterns of shapes and things like that. With I can't believe that would actually happen. You have to be dealing with some intelligence if
Hmm.
you're talking about shapes.
Hmm.
So all it is who's the intelligence,
Yeah.
humans or something else.
Something
And I
else.
think that we're being guided to do certain designs and felt like, you design things on paper. Somebody else says they were asking for that design. So, well, who's manipulating who? Is it the guiding hand from above
Hmm.
is sending both the person who's got the thought in their head about that design? Are they sending them that image as well as us? Or is it person to person telepathy? There's somebody thinking about that image and we go out and do it. And I know that's happened because I mean, again, does it come down from above or is it sideways? I've gone out and done things on urge, a real urge. I must go out and do something. Didn't have a team, made a crop circle really near some people who were sitting there all in a circle meditating. The funny thing was, from my perspective, I heard people playing a guitar
Oh
and
wow.
chatting. Apparently, they weren't. They were silently meditating. But I think that was to warn me. You see, the paranormal realm warns you, watch out, there's people over there. There's things like that happen, because there was no guitar music and they were really close to me. And in the morning, sunlight came up and the crop circle was right there. I was doing it within earshot of these people.
Wow. That's interesting.
That's how the paranormal warns you. There have been times when we've been chased out of fields by balls of light, and it seemed like I was going against my gut instinct, that everything felt wrong, like we weren't meant to be there, and our brains were muddled. And for circle makers who are very experienced to say, I don't know where to start. This doesn't feel right. I'm not sure. And then it's like I can't get my brain together to actually work out what the measurement is, and then I'm thinking, hang on, this is weird. It's like I can't think straight. It's like I'm not drunk, but diminished. I'm
Hmm.
compromised. My
Yeah.
thinking's been compromised, And then I just thought, doesn't matter, don't matter. Just take the tape out and start. Just start. And that was the moment when they just took the tape out and they were just about to start. Balls of light came on, ping, 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 and then that was it. We had to get out of the field because we
Wow.
thought it was farmers, and we ran out of the field. And then we saw these lights were converging into the place that we were just about to start. So these
Hmm.
lights were converging in, and it seems like we weren't supposed to do something there, and I was going against the instinct that was feeling it's wrong, it feels wrong, we can't think. That was meant to be like, don't do anything there, don't. And I was going against that. And then a couple of weeks later, in exactly the same position that we would have put that circle, another team, unbeknownst that we'd been there, they didn't know we'd been there, they put an absolutely stunning design there that took a lot of effort, a real stunner, and in that position. And I think it was like we weren't meant to, they were.
So when you're doing these circles, do you? I mean, are you conscious the whole time, or is there any time loss or anything
Yeah,
like that that happens?
we've had a time loss because we started a design, and I noticed that time was getting, we were wasting a lot of time, and
Mhm.
I'm always keeping a track of the time as we're going. So if we have to speed it up and curtail the design, make it shorter and not so complicated, then we can finish something, and we can get
Mhm.
out of there before it gets daylight. So I'm always keeping a track of the time. But because I believe that we're being guided by something, I I talk to that something when we're doing the crop circles, and I ask for guidance. And we would do a little oration at the beginning. We would say, like, we all get together and say, like, the great universal intelligence is out there. Please guide us to make this design and make it positive for people. And we would do that sort of little oration and a bit more. And then but I would talk to things in my mind when things weren't going right. I would ask for some inspiration, and there was a time when it was raining, and I was really pissed off because it was raining and we were getting wet. It was cold and windy, and I was just like, this is not fun. This is not fun at all. I'm not enjoying this. I said in my head, oh, can you just give us a break with this rain? I'm just like, just give us a break, and then it's sort of like the rain just died away and became just like misty rain, not really mist, but like cloudy, sort of like moist, but not raining. And I thought, oh, that's okay. I can deal with that. That's fine. And then I was sort of like walking around doing something, and I realized, like, around the edge of the circle, it still seemed to be raining. So I walked to the edge of, literally the edge of the circle, put my hand out, it's raining, pull my hand in, it's not raining.
Hmm.
And I looked up, and there was an oval in the cloud. Now, I'm not saying it was like a saucer shape. I mean, talk like a goat's eye, like a
Mhm.
like an oval, but just in the cloud. And the clouds are moving with the wind, and the oval is still staying there.
Just stand stationary.
It's just stationary,
Wow.
and it stayed above us, and it didn't rain on the circle. And I actually called people out, and I said, "Have you noticed it stopped raining?" And they went, "Yeah." I said, "Come here, come here. Raining, not raining. What's that up there?"
Hmm.
And we were like that. And that
Wow.
was to the other circle makers. So that's one event. And then another event where this going back to this one. Sorry, I skipped the stories. Um, didn't have enough time. Said in my mind, we need more time. Yeah. And then I'd been calling out to other people. I said, like, what's the time on, and somebody said, like, oh, it's 1 o'clock. And I'm like, and somebody said, like, it's 1:05 on my watch, and it's okay. And then time had gone by. I'd watched the sky change. I could see that if it was coming to about 2 o'clock, you could start to see a little bit of glow on the horizon, especially when your eyes have adjusted to the dark. And by 3, it'd be, you know, coming up quite brightly in the summer. And I'd seen this change happen, and I thought, oh, this is going to be a bright morning. It's going to be really clear. We're going to have to finish. We're going to have to speed this up. But I'd said, like, can we have some more time? And then I said, what's the time? And somebody went, it was 1. I went, oh, hang on, it was 1 earlier on. And I went, and then somebody else said, yeah, mine's saying it's 1 as well. And I'm like, but you all checked your watches properly? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, so you're all sure it was one? Yeah, absolutely. And I
Were the
look back,
watches all the same time?
all the watches were back 1 hour.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I looked up at the sky and it had gone back to what it was like the hour before, because I'd watched it come up. Then I'd asked for the time. Everybody give me the time. And I looked up and the sky had gone back to being darker.
Wow.
And that was bizarre.
Glow.
So
Okay, go ahead.
yeah, no, that's just weird stuff. But I think if you have a dialogue, you have to have a dialogue with whatever it's out there, and I think kind of talk to it, and sort of say what your intentions are, and yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, exactly. Communication. Um, Global Media is asking, how do you make crop circles?
With a plank of wood, which has rope around it, the lighter the better, because you're going to be lifting that up and down a lot. So you want to reduce the weight because it will start to tire on you otherwise. And you use a tape measure, which is one of these roll-up surveyor's tape measures. And you particularly use those surveyor's tape measures. You don't use rope or string as a measurement device, because over a long distance, it will actually stretch. And when you're holding that like over 100 feet out, and somebody's then walking a 200-foot, diameter, because you've got 100 foot held out and they're going around, you stand in place with either spinning on your foot, but it's more accurate to put a post in the ground, and then you hold that tape, and as they pull, because they'll pull you back and forth,
Yeah.
it's easier to hold it over a post, because then you can always see that you haven't moved, and you can just maneuver yourself around the post, and then you can see that your hand with the tape is above the post, and that's a good way to kind of minimize your tolerance errors. But if you make the mistake of trying to use ropes or anything like that, they'll stretch. Surveyor's tape measure has fiberglass infused into it, so it goes very tight, and it doesn't tend to want to give you inaccurate measurements. The only thing that'll make it go off is when the wind blows it and you get bowing, and also a slight bow of as it goes through gravity across that distance, you get a little bit there, and that's why we hold it tight. And that's why I say, people pull you because you have to hold it tight, so you wrap it around your hand and then you hold it tight, and it's literally, it's not just sort of resting and just moving around, you've got to hold that bastard tight, and the person at the other end is holding it tight as well. So often there's a little bit of a tug against them, because they're obviously stomping as well, so it's one of those. But what we do is we line it first. We'll put the pencil lines in, which are just your feet. So you have to walk sideways with your feet. So you're actually just stepping sideways, 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 and you're holding this tape, and you're facing the person who's in the middle, and you're just stepping sideways. If you were to walk forwards with the tape held out at the side, you'd be weaving more. If you were
Okay.
going forwards, you need your foot, the flat edge of your foot is a good enough size so that you can see the pencil line, and you also wouldn't want to walk forwards because you'd be creating 2 foot widths. So you'd be going foot to the right, foot to the left, foot to the right, foot to the left. So you'd be creating that. So when you go sideways, it's one line, So
That seems like a lot of work, man.
yeah, well,
A
you put
lot.
put the pencil lines in, and then you bring out the boards, and the boards
Mhm.
flatten large areas. But you've got to be sure of what you're doing. You can't make mistakes. If you well, you can to a degree, but you have to mask them. Then you have to hide,
Yeah.
what you've done wrong. So
Dinkin wants me to ask you about the friend that was hit in the head during a crop circle creation.
yeah, I mean, these were the famous artists called Doug and Dave. Now, a lot of people have, over the years have tried to pull scorn on them because they said, "Oh, look at them, these old farts, these old guys. They reckon they were making crop circles back in the day, way back, and look, they couldn't do anything." Well, it's like, One of them was actually a really accomplished artist. He had his own studio and he used to paint fine
Mhm.
art paintings in proper oil and watercolors. And that guy was a bloody artist. And not that you have to be a professional artist in order to make crop circles, but I think it does help sometimes if you can kind of picture in your head something that you're in, whether you've got a design, but you have to be able to say, well, I can see that is what I'm seeing there. I know where I am. And I think having that kind of visual mind where you can reference back and forth, which is what you like when you're painting, I suppose, to a degree, you're kind of going, that's got to be there, this has to be this size, and you kind of measurements and proportion. Otherwise people are going to have, like, their eyes are going to be on the top of their head and the other eye is going to be down here, isn't it? It's like artists, I think, have got a little bit of a flair for it, but also technical drawing people, architects and people like that, or maybe people who are into building, where they realize that how important it is to have straight lines and everything has to be measured and triple
Mhm.
checked. You don't just make a measurement. You measure it, then you measure it, then you measure it, then you do it, and then you check it. And it's like all those measurements add up to big mistakes. If you make a mistake and you don't check all your measurements, you end up with big deviations and big mistakes, which then people spot.
The
Like
silent gardener says some
Garenda.
crop. Sorry, yeah,
The
some
silent
crop.
Garenda.
Yeah, some Grenda. Sorry, some crop circles can still be seen after harvest and plowing has been taking place from the air.
Yes, and there's good reasons for that. The sun gets down to the surface more when the crop is pushed over. So there's a difference in the UV and the heat and the way that affects the ground. Plus, also, people walking around over that area again and again and again compresses the ground. So it's going to receive less water or less or more light depending on how that's been over the season. So um, yes, it will then show up. Marks will show up, and exactly the same thing happens for buildings that are under the surface, because you get some years when you will spot in the ground that there's been a building or a feature which has been hidden, such as these burial mounds and things like that. You have rings of stones and they've been pushed down and earth's gone across the top of them. But because it's there in the ground,
Hmm.
the ground almost kind of sees through. It's like a transparency for whatever's been underground or whatever's happened.
Yeah.
So if you get like fertilizer gets spilled wrongly, you'll have a big patch across the ground. If you have a flood channel, like that will show up. You'll see the flood where the flood waters went down, and it'll sort of show you that, and it'll come back year after year. So the ground it's almost like a photographic plate in a way. The
Hmm.
ground is like a plate, and whatever you do will redevelop, like a photo. It comes back out and you see it from the air with no crop. You can see it in the actual land, in the dirt sometimes, and especially when it's extremely hot, because I know a lot of archaeologists, they really like the very, very dry years, because they go up in aircraft then, because the dryness brings out the shapes.
Yeah.
So they're looking for archaeological places to dig, and sometimes some of the best have been found by just seeing the marks in the ground.
The marks in the ground. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I've seen a few things like that are like literally thousands of years old or hundreds of years old, even hundreds of years old. And, what's left is just some sort of little bit of a foundation left and it's all overgrown and literally, in fact, I remember some drone footage from last year that we took. We found an old building that had been completely like just the foundation was left, but had been completely overgrown. But you could see it just amazingly from the sky. And you're like, wow, there used to be a building here. And there was never any indication that there was actually a building there, but there was.
yeah. You can see where ancient, um, fence lines, like
Mm.
stone walls,
Hmm.
crossing across a field that would have been a different boundary to the farmer's land. And that's been taken away, and then a fence has been put somewhere else, but you can see where the wall would have been, just by the mark in the ground that comes back year after year after year.
Oh, I mean, look at the Nazca Plains, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, look, the glyphs there are just they've been there for thousands of years,
yeah. It's
and
funny, isn't it?
there's there's a reason why they're still there. It's amazing.
Yeah,
Um, Matt, I don't know if you're okay to go a bit more, or if you have to get
yeah,
going.
I'm okay, I'm all
Uh,
right. Yeah,
do you want to open it up? You want to bring some people in?
yeah, you go for it.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's
Yeah.
see if anybody wants to join us. I'll put the link out there for people who want to come in. Throw it out there.
Just thinking hard today.
Yeah, there we go. If anybody wants to join us, by all means, there's the link. Yeah, with the crop circles though, I mean, how long were you doing them for? Like,
I started in 1992, and I got arrested for it in 2000.
oh
And
wow,
I kind of cut it back then after that, because
yeah,
I did make some, but not on the massive scale that I was. And I certainly wasn't going to admit to it at the
hmm,
time that I was still making a few.
oh, do we lose
But
Matt? Oh, there
um,
you go.
yeah, I was mostly, yeah. What I'll do is I won't make them. I totally design them and get a team together and make them. What I will do is I'll go out and help people if they need help. I'll go out on their team, So I basically filled in and helped, but I was kind of like, on standby for people who needed me. But I wound back my own very forward presence that I used to have.
So when you got arrested, what did they how did they look at you when you said what you were doing? Did you say that you were making crop circles?
And I admitted to some people that I'd done a design,
Oh, okay.
and it was actually for Whitley Strieber.
Oh, no way.
I made a crop circle for Whitley Strieber because he had a guest on his show that I thought talked bunk. This guy
Mhm.
talked out of his ass, and so I said to Whitley Strieber, would you like some proof, that it is people doing it? And he said yes. So he set the criteria would be like, send me the design before you do it. And I said, yeah, and you'll have to keep it secret, because if we send you this design, and you go giving it to these people, they're going to say, oh yeah, that's a crap one. People made that. This is how the mechanism works. How people behave when they know a circle is man-made. They go, oh yeah, that's a rubbish one. Yeah, no, nothing, crap. But if they don't know, they'll start telling you like that. Oh, there's no way that could be made by people. And so you can't influence people by telling them. You have to just let them make their minds up. So I said, don't go giving anything away. See what people say about that circle. Just let it soak in, and you'll see what your guest will say about that circle as well. Because I'll make sure it has some numbers in it that I know he really likes. And then you'll know that he isn't a good judge.
Mm.
He might be telling you a lot of truth about many things,
Yeah.
but he doesn't know his arse from his elbow when he's talking about what's man-made and what's not. you know so he said, yeah, okay, and he said he'd keep it secret, and he didn't. He gave that information immediately to that circle researcher, and that circle researcher took it to the police,
Oh,
and
wow.
the rest was history. Yeah.
Jeez.
Mm.
How active is it now though? Crop circles. Is it
Not as
still very
active.
active?
Not as active,
No.
no. And to be honest, I think the standards dropped quite a bit. Um, there are some people who I don't really get on with them, to be honest. I find them quite negative.
Mhm.
And they are still making some circles, but it seems like they make absolute mess. Like, well, I was going to use a term then, but I'll refrain from that term. But it's very messy stuff. But then they seem to sort of pull off a few interesting ones by the end of a season. But at the beginning, it's like, nah. So the standards aren't really consistent. It's not good at the beginning and good at the end. It's shit at the beginning, but one or two good ones by the end. But I can spot the mistakes in them a mile away because their stuff really has some telltale giveaway signs, which we've told people about over the years. But they really make some bad mistakes, like rough edges and wobbly lines, and yeah.
Another question: Do you think the alien face crop circle was real?
Yeah, really made by people. Yeah, but that is real. That's real. If it's made by people, it's real because that's what the crop circles are. So it's a case of whether or not you want to believe that some things are so amazing to look at and so complicated and came down in such a short space of time over one night, which sometimes they don't, because that I put it like this. I have it on good authority that alien face was done over 2 nights, but because nobody knew it was there, the team were able to come back and carry on. That could just be a big conspiracy theory. Yeah.
How long does it usually take?
It's usually from, oh God, here we go. Sorry. From 10 at night when it gets dark till about 4 in the morning. However, you can continue on into the daylight if you've got good enough cover, like people aren't generally going to see you. It's one of those locations that is hidden away. And sometimes things like mist as well works to your advantage because you get early morning mists and you can continue to work because nobody can see. Like
Nobody can see.
you can see a hill, you can see up to a hill, and the hill could see you, but sideways all around you, nobody can see you. So as long as there's nobody on that hill, you're okay. So you can continue on, but everybody keeps looking at the hill whilst they're continuing on. It's like I've done that a few times. So but yes, I mean you can go back on a second night, and some of the best ones have been done over a couple of nights. So
what's the craziest crop circle you've ever done or witnessed?
well, one of the ones that was loved the most, so it was considered like, oh, people couldn't do this, it's too amazing, was called the basket weave formation. And it was very close to my home, so it wasn't far for me to go. And yeah, it was just an idea I had to put this basket weave in, which was instead of just flattening it all in one direction or flattening it in two directions, which often people will flatten and then flatten something over. I thought, why don't we just make it a crazy pattern where you do a line, miss a line, do a line, miss a line, and then you go up and down missing lines. So you flatten all the bits, but you've then created a checkerboard pattern in effect. And what it ended up doing is making it look like it was basket weaving. It wasn't really, but it looked like that as an optical illusion. It wasn't quite what people thought it was with the over and under, and all it is I mean, you just flatten, miss a bit, flatten, miss a bit, flatten, miss a bit, and then go over, come back, go over, come back. It just gives that kind of locked in effect. That was one of the ones that a lot of people were, hailed as being, people definitely couldn't do that one. And it's like, well, thank you very much, and then there are some, like the biggest ones that have appeared, some of the biggest ones that I had somebody on my show, Circle Makers TV, and he actually did the design on paper straight out of his head.
Yeah,
guys like that. He's quite gifted, in doing the designs. So he hadn't practiced. He came into the studio, and he just literally sat there with paper and just went and got it right first time, bang. And then he just pulled the page past, and he's like bang. That's just design after design after design. And I mean, that the big one was one of the designs he did. The biggest one that had ever appeared was one of the designs he drew on paper. So think about it. think about it, he's got it up here, he's got it
Hmm.
on paper. All he has to do is translate it into the field. If he can remember it up here, and you've got a big enough team.
Hmm.
And people said, they said you can't do that because it would take them weeks. And it's like, well, hang on, have you seen the speed that circle makers work at? And with a big enough team, it would take you more than one day, but that's because it was done over 2 days, and nobody saw it because there was mist, so nobody could fly aircraft because it was misty and
Yeah.
cloudy. You
Yeah.
can't fly. So nobody flew over to see part one. All they saw is part two when it was finished. So yeah,
That's
lots of
a
things like that.
basket. Yeah, that's cool. I mean, how many people do you usually have making these? Like,
Uh,
what's an
you,
ideal sort of team, if you will?
you need a minimum of two, but it's much better to have three because with two people, you've got one to hold the tape and one to walk and scribe. So that's the minimum because you need two to kind of do that. Um, and then you can put posts in the ground and you can measure and do with two people. However, much easier with three because when you're doing straight lines, you can put one person one end, one person the other, whilst
Hmm.
one person walks along the tape. So they hold
Oh, okay.
tight whilst you walk along the tape. So you can get away with it, with just two, but it's a lot better with three. I mean, you can do it with two if you've got a laser. We used to use lasers and little red lasers. They're not that bright. And
Hmm.
if you go down along the beam, you can see them. However, once you walk sideways, they kind of disappear. You don't see them. So you could point a laser in a straight line, and we just used to walk with it on our chest. And you just go along, and sort of scribe with it on you. You see the point on you, and you just keep walking sideways. You know, could be
That's
on your
that
arm or yeah.
that is that's cool. Um, Now, condition wise, I mean, what are the best conditions to construct these crop circles?
Well, and it's better to have no. Oh, sorry. It's better to have. It's mostly because when I do that, it takes your voice down in pitch when I've got that smoke coming out. I don't know if you noticed that, but sort of like Barry White for a second, and then they come back up. So yeah, you want to have a nice night. Probably not moonlit because it was too bright. You'll get seen by people. So people think that you go out when it's light. Light is bad. You can see in the dark without the moon out. Your eyes adjust to the dark, and you're within about 20 minutes. Your night vision is pretty good. Um, so I mean, you can't see really well. I mean, you do still have to work out who is that out there, and you can't see them, but you can see there's somebody out there, and you can
Hmm.
see that the tape is going towards them, so you know they're there, and you know they're there by tug more than sight, because you'll tug, he's there, so somebody's there. But generally, you want to have a not a windy night because windiness will blow the tape, and you get this bowing of the tape, and then that will pull the measurement points. So that's not good. So you want to have low winds, dark, no moon, and warm. Because some nights get like some almost sub-zero. There's you don't want to have that, and you don't want to be damp and cold. Um, but you can build up a temperature when you're actually stomping. So when you're standing around whilst all the measurements are being done, everyone gets cold. So you tend to sort of like wrap up warm because you're waiting for the guys who are doing the measurements, and you can't really do anything until they finish because everything has to be laid out before you can start flattening.
Hmm.
So people get really bored and they're like, cold. And then, once the stomping starts, it's like the clothes start coming off then, and you start getting warm again. But uh, yeah, it's but I mean, I had hay fever as well. That's the kind
Oh
of
well,
funny thing.
yeah.
I had hay fever, and like it was on one level, I always used to enjoy seeing people's enjoyment from
Hmm.
them, but I'd be sniffling and my eyes would be watering when I was making them, and
Yeah,
it was kind of miserable. But I just pushed on through it because I knew that we were doing something amazing and we were working with something else that was guiding us to do it.
yeah, yeah. That
In
that alone, yeah.
Yeah, and then you're having weird experiences, which is your pay. That's like that's your payment. Your payment is seeing people's pleasure and having weird experiences. That's your payment.
Good old hay fever. I've had it many times. I
Yeah,
get it bad, man, especially in a situation like that. I can't say I've ever done a crop circle before, though, but that's pretty cool. I like that.
I'm not
S-
getting as much as I used to in the summers now since I stopped doing it. I mean, it has calmed down for me a lot, and I remember they printed it in the papers because it was a quoted, you know, I've hung up my stomper board because of my hay fever. Well, it's kind of like I was trying to sort of wean myself off it and kind of say to people like, if you need me, I'll be there, but like, I've been doing this for like 20 odd years, so it's need to kind of, yeah.
When's the last time you went out and did a crop circle?
Um, I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's probably a couple of years now. Yeah.
Couple years?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, got another. Can
And
can you tell?
I'm not missing it, to be honest, because it is very hard work. It is really hard work, and I've filled in now with the urbex. That's filling my, you know, attention because I'm out at night. I love being out in the dark, out
Mhm,
in weird places, spooky places and stuff. So I'm still doing what I love,
mhm.
but I'm just not suffering for it,
Yeah,
because
exactly.
yeah.
Question. Can you tell us a location design we could search for to find one that you have made?
Yeah, well, I mean, I did actually reveal all the ones that were my designs because it was my right to do that because they were
Mhm,
my designs. What you can't do is you can't tell people when you've been working on really big ones where you've
mhm.
worked as a team and it isn't necessarily your design because then it's not your call, is it, to kind of out that. So if you want to find out what I've done, there is actually a talk I gave. If you have like Matthew Williams talk lecture on crop circles, and it's for the Centre of Fortean Zoology, and I did
Mhm.
a lecture where I actually showed up on screen, all the ones that I'd done that I could talk about. That I could talk about. There
Yeah.
were others I couldn't talk about. So yeah.
Well, I guess, and locations and stuff like that, you don't wanna sort of give those away, so, people are, the wrong person and like, "Oh, okay, let's go trash it," or whatever else, and there's a lot of devious people out there.
Yeah, you never tell people ahead of time what you're doing unless you're on the team, and
Well, yeah.
you've got to keep it very quiet, and you don't tell people that you made the circle afterwards because it's up to people to come up to their own conclusions on what it is. They've
Well,
got to kind of make that journey for themselves.
crop circle location map on Google.
Mm,
Somebody says there's a crop circle. Oh, okay, cool.
yeah,
I'll look it up.
they won't say these are the ones that Matthew Williams said he did, though. They won't tell you that.
They'll just give you a generalized sort of, oh, this crop circle's here, that's sort of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, oh, that's cool. Well, you know what, Matt? I think we're gonna call it.
yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna call it.
Did you not get anybody come up?
No, nobody wants to come up. They don't like
Nobody
us.
wanted to go up. Oh dear.
They don't like
Last
it.
last chance, people. Last
They
chance.
don't like us.
Yeah, but the thing is,
Barry,
I've I've
oh,
I've
Barry
told
has
I've told this story so many times. I mean, I don't mind retelling it, but it's the same story every time.
yeah.
So, I mean, at least people, hopefully, if you go back and watch everything I've said over the years, you'll see that it's consistent because it's the truth. So,
And do you have some of this stuff on your Secret Vault as well, don't you? Some of the crop
uh,
circle stuff?
yeah, I did put some of the Circle Makers TV shows, but they're actually mostly on my other channel, which is called Truth Seekers 666, which is me like barking at the moon and ranting about stuff and messing about. And it's a whole mishmash of, like silly YouTube videos. And then my Urbex
Yeah.
is more serious on the Urbex channel. Well, it isn't really, is it? Because it's me and I just take the piss. So it isn't that serious. I can't stay serious. I'm always messing around. But yeah.
Uh, Well,
Barry asked a question, I've been told.
let's see.
Hmm.
Barry.
Oh,
Barry.
that
Oh,
Barry, temporal transmission.
yeah.
Let's have a look.
Ever made a crop circle in the wrong field?
Not in the wrong field, but we may have gone to a field and then discovered it was shittier than we thought it was going. That field was the wrong crop, or was a lot thinner, as in like the distance between the plants was so great that by the time you were flattening it down, you realized it was just going to look wispy. The crop circle was going to look quite bare. What you want is a good thickness of crop, so there's a lot of crop planted close to each other. That's the best sort of best stuff. And I mean, I suppose you could say the wrong field, the wrong time is really the wrong field. It might be the right field, the right crop, but you went there the wrong time. Too early means it's green, and if the crop is green, it will all start returning to the position that it was in or was meant to be in, because crop grows back up towards the light. So if you catch green crop, then it will start growing back up towards the light, and you'll get a much lessened design. It'll be a lot lighter, and then if you go when it's too late, crop is often very brittle. In fact, it's often been sprayed to kill the crop off, so that it's sprayed with Roundup,
Yeah.
to kind of kill the crop, and kills the insects, but also kills the crop as well. And that crop is then brittle.
Yeah.
But it also falls apart and meshes. So the heads tend to mesh together like Velcro. So as you're pushing, you can feel it going, instead of going neatly down in one direction, it's all kind of scuffing together.
Yeah.
So it makes for messy work. So it's more to do with the timing. You have to know your times when certain crop is right for the circle, and then it moves from it starts with rapeseed, which is horrible to work in because it's big, thick stems, and they snap a lot when you're doing rapeseed, and then it moves into being barley and then wheat. So those are the crops that works in that sort of order. I think I got that right. It's been a while. But yeah, I think it's that sort of stuff. And then wheat is the final stuff then, and it turns golden right at the end. So you get the best circles at the end of the season because the wheat shines, it browns, but it's like a golden brown. So you get the nicest looking circles then that shine.
That's cool. I'd love to do a crop circle, man. That'd be pretty cool. That'd be
You
pretty
got
neat.
crop out in your
Oh,
part of the
tons
wood.
of crop. Tons
There
of
you go.
crop. Just
Give it a
right.
go.
I'll have to get some pointers from you.
Get the Bedini out in the field.
All right, Matt. Thanks a lot, man.
Okay.
Thanks
We'll
a
catch you
lot.
soon.
And definitely look forward to having you back on.
All the best.
Take care, man.
Cheers now. Goodbye.
Cheers. Good
Bye.
night.